Hi, this is a quick reminder that Slot Leader is an educational podcast, and as such, we do not provide investment, financial, tax, or legal advice. Hello, and welcome back to Slot Leader. I'm super excited to reintroduce this podcast. As you know, the original Slot Leader was born in the depth of the bear market, and uh, Bitcoin falling down to 74 to 73 is just a great signal for me to just bring this back into the fore. I have a special announcement to make this time. I do have a co-host. His name is Tom Flynn. He's a longtime Web3 native an entrepreneur who started his careers as a Navy medic. Upon leaving the Navy, he worked for Neural Technologies, a UK-based software company with focus on fraud detection and risk management. He got his start in Web3 in 2018 as an early contributor to Cardano ecosystem, working at IOHK, joining as a pivotal at a pivotal moment before the Shelley era, leading teams in that company for 5 years as it grew to over 700 people. He and several of his teammates left IOHK to found and build Apex Fusion, a digital asset superhighway that acts as middleware between formerly siloed blockchain systems. So, you have your Ethereum, you have your ETXO. Think of Apex Fusion as something in between that coordinates the transactions and movement of value. He's a co-founder of several tech companies, including HAL8 and Abu Dhabi Labs that built Apex Fusion, Coherence AI, which applies principles of coherence science to AI development, and Futures Foundry, which brings Web3 innovation to traditional industries that need to position themselves for the future. In his free time, Tom focuses on activities aimed at consciousness expansion, such as meditation, research into psychedelics, remote viewing, that's an important one, telepathy, and the role of coherent science for tapping into talent of human potential. I would like to welcome Tom Flynn and give him the podium to speak about how we met and what he's all about. I'm super excited to have him as a co-host again.
I'm really excited to be here, Umid, and thanks so much for inviting me to join you here on the podcast. I've been a fan of Slot Leader for a long time, ever since your first episode with Charles Hoskinson, going back. What year was that? Was that
2022, 2021?
Yeah.
Something along those lines. I forgot. It's been a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, exactly. And was just thinking back about how we connected, how we were both in the Cardano ecosystem for years, but hadn't met, hadn't connected. You were even working at Wave Financial, who we in the commercial department at IO had regular contact with, and our paths didn't cross until after I left IO. And you had been working with the Apex team even before we met, and we really connected at the Rare Evo event, which was an amazing event last year. So what are some of the things that you're doing with us at Apex right now?
Well, I'm running a node with Apex Fusion. First of all, I just wanted to tell everybody in the audience that my interest in Apex Fusion was really sparkled by the fact that they wanted to kind of bring back the original vision of Cardano. If you remember, for the OGs especially, we had this different layers, the architecture of different layers, settlement layer and the compute layer, way in the beginning, probably goes back to 2018, 2019, where Cardano was supposed to be a layered sort of solution to world problems. In settlement layer, you just basically transfer value, and on the compute layer, you do all sorts of stuff with with smart contracts. Now, unfortunately, Cardano has left that vision in favor of something that's more monolithic. And I'm not judging. It's just a choice that they made. But I was super excited to find out to find out that there is a team that believed in this earlier version of Cardano, which got me really excited about it. So I met with Tom and I met with Jerry at Rare Evo. We kind of connected about this whole thing. I jumped on the opportunity to run a node on the Apex Fusion chain, and I've been running, the node ever since, and trying to contribute and connect this wonderful team that actually delivers to the wider community of my networks that I have.
Oh yeah. Thanks for that, Umed. Yeah, that concept of separating the settlement and the execution layer is what makes Apex Fusion unique, because each blockchain in the tri-chain architecture is fit for purpose. The settlement layer decentralizes the network, mints the token, and provides security, and that's all that it's for. And then the UTXO layer 2 called Vector, which I think that's who you run a node. You run probably a Vector and a Prime node, right? Vector being for dApps only, like fit for purpose, has enabled us to make it screaming fast with sub-second finality, which makes it perfect for institution grade DeFi. So yeah, thanks for that intro on that stuff, and so happy to be working with you, and we get to hang out and we work with the entire team and get to see you at events, and it's just great. You bring great energy to the project.
I'm really happy to be here and restart the slot leader with you, another ex-IOHK person. As you know, I've been a big fan of IOG for a long time, especially those who built the protocol, because I think they are amazing people, amazing engineers, great minds. Speaking of great minds, Duncan Coutts has joined Apex Fusion, is developing Apex Fusion to become more fast and robust. And this is Cardano tech. At the end of the day, it's the same family that makes Cardano interoperable with wider variety of chains out there. So we are not moving away from Cardano altogether or anything like that. It's just a different iteration. Just think about Linux and different flavors of it. If you want to stick with Ubuntu, you can do that. If you want to go in a little bit exotic into Red Hat and things like that, you can do that. So it's just the same tech, just different presentation, different priorities. But that aside, today's topic is going to be bridges. I just wanted to restart this conversation, restart the podcast with a conversation around bridges. I think bridges are one of those more controversial sort of technology stacks that have existed in crypto. Quite honestly, usually when you hear about bridges, it's about hacks. And we have an amazing guest, the CEO of Ethernal. His name is it's Srdjan. Srdjan is his name, and he's a professor. He's a professor of at the Technical Sciences University of Novi Sad, Serbia, and he's been doing this. He's been involved in technology for over 25 years, and I like to interview people who know what they're doing, which is why I like Cardano. And I think this conversation that we're gonna have is gonna be amazing. But aside from that, I wanted to again basically let you get to know Tom in a more personal level. Tom is not only a Web3 aficionado or professional, but he's also interested in, as his profile says, about consciousness, about meditation, psychedelics research. And we want to basically open up the platform in this podcast to all those sort of tangential topics, also to discuss these extra dimensions that in our lives. So do you have any other things you wanted to share on that front, Tom?
Oh, Umed, as you know, there's so much, right? So I mean, and people might wonder how it connects to, say, the themes around Web3, and because Web3 is often so focused on technology. But those themes really do, because in a broader sense, the technology that we build is really an enabler, right? It's Web3 to me is more about communities, it's more about people, and I like to talk about our industry as a perfect storm of opportunity when it's going right. It brings together open source technology, brings together people who are fired up about changing the world, and in optimal conditions, it brings together funding, and it gives people an opportunity to make contributions to the world no matter where they are in the world in ways that have never happened before. So this in itself, the entire industry, to me, Web3 is about expanding upon legacy systems and taking the world somewhere new. And the people element, in a lot of ways, is growing right alongside the technology, because as we're building together, we have teams all over the world that all bring their own special, unique abilities and backgrounds and ideas. And let's face it, this industry is challenging for people, and therefore it really attracts just some of the brightest, most innovative, creative, and battle-tested people anywhere, because who else would put themselves through this type of environment with so much uncertainty, right? As everything is coming together, whether it be the regulatory environment, whether it be the volatility of the assets, whether it be how difficult it can be for a startup to bootstrap. It really requires a really special type of person to really thrive in this environment. So it actually kind of comes baked in that you're going to have a lot of creativity bubbling up, where people are bringing their own special view to the work. And certainly we've done this at Apex, where these themes about coherence are part of our culture as a company. And we even do, we don't manage to do it every week because we're busy, but we do mindfulness sessions as a team. Most of the team has an ongoing meditation practice that we talk about. Many members of the team really have deep understanding of what it means to manifest and create your own reality. And we talk about these things openly, and it's something that we apply to the work. And to me, it's the next generation of business activity is going to be supported and fueled by these types of concepts, right? Because the world, as we all know, we kind of try not to pay too much attention to it, but the world is getting exceedingly complex. I don't think there's anybody that could deny that. And we're getting to a point where our traditional means of solving problems is continuing to break down throughout all of society, whether it be legacy institutions, legacy ways of doing things, legacy ways of thinking. So some of that element, whether you call it spirituality, whether you want to call it mindfulness, presence, coherence, I don't care what you want to call it, that's going to play an important role in helping us navigate the complexity of the world as we head into the future together, right? Instead of, getting overwhelmed by all the change, bringing a new energy to those problems and trying to use all this chaos as we go through this transition to move us somewhere better, right? And I know that's something that you have a lot of strong opinions about as well, right?
Absolutely. I think blockchain attracted me primarily because it is so fundamental. Once it's built, and it's being built for the past 4 years or 3 years that I've been taking a break. I've still been active in this space, and it's great to see projects and that are using the blockchain technology to solve real world problems in a decentralized way. And it's something that's unheard of, in the conventional sense. And when you tap into the energies and talent of the globe through the decentralized systems, it inevitably it brings the question to fore of like our abilities to coordinate and sort of move in the same direction, guided by common principles and meditation. The research into psychedelics and coherence fields and all that kind of plays into this, because not only are we waking up to the new reality of the world economic order, which blockchain is inevitably going to change it. Those who are still skeptical, I would say that you guys are just sleeping under the rock at this point. It is inevitable that the world economy is going to run on blockchain. I mean, in the past months, I think we've got the juggernauts, the New York Stock Exchange, the DCCT, I think, announcing that they are going to run their operations on the blockchain, and it's the transition is happening, and it's going to happen. At some point, it's going to be so fast that people wouldn't know what's going on, and maybe some people wouldn't even know or notice this, but as these economic centers move into the blockchain, you need some sort of a coordination mechanism, or to actually get people or talent to move in the same directions. And I think meditation and new way of thinking about the problems, new way of being human, basically, is going to play a great role in this transition. And I'm totally there with you, Tom.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, we're definitely heading into a new place together in the future, and bringing together all these different ideas with the technology, tapping into talent globally is really what's going to drive the change, in my opinion. So I hope that through the series that we do together, we can delve into a lot of these topics. Some of them, kind of just on the normal side, and some of them a little more esoteric, like you mentioned, remote viewing, for example. Like some of these, you can almost think of them as conceptual technologies or mental technologies that, are very well understood, documented protocols that people have been practicing for decades, that, different segments of our world governments know about and use consistently, that just haven't had their breakout moment in the mainstream media, largely for intentionally, right? Because of what it will mean if society has validation that concepts like this are actually real and viable. I saw a speaker maybe a couple months ago who brought up this point specifically about remote viewing and psi abilities. And they said, so imagine, I think it was the Danny Jones podcast, it was the episode I was watching, and the guest was saying, imagine what will happen if there's validation from the federal government that psi abilities are real and that you can train in them. What that would eventually lead to is situations where civilians are training their psi abilities just in the same way you might go to a dojo to practice martial arts.
Yeah.
What will happen then? If people actually develop these abilities, what will it mean to our traditional institutions? What will it mean to, say, the practice of law, for example? What will it mean for law enforcement when somebody comes and brings a court case and says, this person used pyrokinesis to burn down my house? Well, we've got a way to handle that right now. We just say that person is crazy and we send them to a psychiatrist, right? So if that turns out to be the case, it's fair to say that the way society is structured today is not prepared to deal with this, which is all the more reason why we have to bring coherence principles forward in our relationships and our communities to make sure that people understand coherence is not just a nice to have, it's actually required to move forward as a human race.
That's an array of toppings that probably will never exhaust themselves in terms of curiosity of the mind. But in the interest of time, I just want to make sure that our viewers, the longtime supporters who have been asking me to bring Slot Leader back, get to enjoy the format that we've had established. But I just want to make sure that you understand there's going to be some elements that in this podcast we will explore that will go beyond the blockchain proper or economics proper. But again, there's not a whole lot of ways you can separate blockchain from any facet of your life that is going to be affected. So in that regard, I think we're going to have really cool discussions. Without further ado, I just wanted to get into the segment of interview. I hope you enjoy it, and can't wait to see your comments on the comment section below. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to have Srdjan Vukmirovic, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Ethernal and a full professor at the Faculty of Technical Sciences at University of Novi Sad, Serbia. With 25 years of experience in software architecture and distributed systems and blockchain technologies, he has been involved in designing and deploying reliable, high-performance solutions across the energy management and Web3 sectors. At Ethernal, he leads a cross-functional team leading product development, translating academic research into practical applications. Srdjan and his team at Ethernal are known in the crypto industry for building scalable system architecture, enhancing system performance, and implementing secure fault-tolerant systems. One of those is the Skyline Bridge, which is a multi-chain bridge, the subject of today's conversations, among many other things. I would like to welcome you to Slot Leader, Srdjan. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Srdjan, and great intro, Umed. So, Srdjan, you and I met working together on the Apex Fusion project, and before you came to Apex Fusion, you've been and your team have been very active in Web3 ecosystems going way back. Maybe tell our audience a little bit more about some of the different projects you've been involved in the past.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Srdjan, a university professor in Novi Sad, where I teach cloud computing and AI. And in the last 5 years, we are doing distributed programming and decentralized algorithms. And all of that is connected, of course, with the blockchain. We started with the Polygon ecosystem, where we have been working on Polygon Edge, and later on Polygon CDK, their zero-knowledge flavor. We are also very active in Cosmos ecosystem, where we have created Gravity Bridge and working on the Cosmos SDK core of the Cosmos ecosystem. And in the last 2 years, we are very active in Cardano-like environment, and we created Apex components together with our friends from Apex Fusion. Yeah.
Right, and you and your team have been amazing partners for us here at Apex. Also, maybe you could share a little bit more about the background of the team at the University of Novi Sad. I understand you've got quite a lot of expertise coming out of academia and working with students as well.
Yeah. We are full professors here, me and my two co-founders, Nemanja and Darko. 25 years on university, distributed decentralized computing. But we also have a lot of experience in real-time mission-critical system, because we were doing together power distribution systems for Schneider Electric. So it is mission-critical, real-time, and where performances and security is very, very high on the priority. And that all gives us a very good starting point for the blockchain, where all of these things are very important. So security, real-time, mission-critical, and fault-tolerant systems.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know even when I started attending Cardano X Spaces, talking about the Apex Fusion project and some of the components, I was getting questions from people on the call specifically about the bridging technology that you built for us. And there are several different bridges at play. So, Umed, I think this is a time maybe to break it down and give Srdjan an opportunity to explain the architecture and what's unique and special about the bridges that he's built.
Oh, you're starting something that's quite close to my heart. I've always wanted to dive into the bridge technology with somebody who knows how to build them, and boy, did we score here with Srdjan. So let's start from the beginning for the audience that is not very familiar with bridges. The only time that I've heard bridges, come to the fore when we hear about the bridges, it's basically about hacks. So this is something that keeps a lot of people away from bridges, because A, they don't understand the technology, and B, they might think that this technology is not, even if it's useful, it's not mature enough to actually give you the same security as the blockchain itself. So why don't we start the discussion from the basics? Can you tell us, Srdjan, what is the bridge?
Okay, so as you know, blockchain ecosystem is very diverse. There are like hundreds of chains, most of them L1 and L2s. So you have blockchains and the users that can use only chain that they're connected to. And of course, if you have islands, you need some bridges, something to connect them. And if you want to move your funds or your tokens or your images from one blockchain to another, you need a blockchain. And it's, of course, it's scary. Even in the real life, if you have two islands, you feel much more safe when you're on an island. When you're on the bridge, you know, it's the wind is blowing and it's much more risky, but you have to have it. You cannot have isolated chains, and you cannot create the ecosystem without the bridges.
That's perfect. No, I can see that, you know, there are instances of like bringing Bitcoin into the Ethereum ecosystem, you know, like wrapped Bitcoin, and doing things with that value capture. And I can see how bridges could be important in that regard. So that basically covers also, you know, why the bridges are necessary. Maybe, you know, Tom has any other questions in here?
Yeah. So how do bridges account for movement of tokens between chains, for example? Like what are the mechanisms that allow bridges to provide that function?
The only thing that you can do on bridge, it's not like in the real life that you cross the bridge, but you have to lock your funds on the one side, on the one island, and then we create the same amount of tokens or assets on the second side. So like on your own sea, and you have to put your boat on one side, and then we make a crossing to another. So it's you have to know it's not the same token or same asset when you move it to next. So it is locked on one side, and you get equivalent value on the other side of the bridge.
So I would like to bring this analogy, Srdjan, and tell me if this is correct. In a bridge that is the crypto bridge, and because the tokens are not composable, you know, there's no atomic composability between the chains in usual cases. It's just like, you know, you're going to a bridge, you're getting into a container, and that container basically decomposes you or locks you, and then creates a hologram of you on the other side of the island, and that becomes like your representation, while your actual you is like contained in that little you know, container while you're roaming around at the other bridge. Is that correct?
All the same analogy. You get into a car to one side of the bridge, you park it there, and we give you the exactly same car on the other side. You use it as long as you want, and once you bring back the car on the second island, you get back here on the first. So it's like, it's not like it's asset. Basically, it's not good to think of it as yourself. It's an asset. You put it on parking on one side and get the same one on the other side.
Well, that actually is a good segue into the other question that I had here, which has to do with security. And every time there is the hack, usually a bridge is involved, which, you know, makes a lot of people hesitant about using them. In some cases, like, you know, the wrapped Bitcoin, there's only one central entity like BitGo or somebody else that holds the Bitcoin and then issues the equivalent asset on Ethereum, for instance, and it's just a centralized entity. You have to do the KYC maybe at some point to basically get in there and issue these things, or, you know, or maybe they issue them the Bitcoin on their own, and then you can get to play with it on Ethereum, knowing that the actor that's behind the wrapped Bitcoin is an entity. So that's one way of basically transferring value from, let's say, Bitcoin into Ethereum or other chains. But bridges tend to be decentralized, and there doesn't have to be one entity doing this, even though there is one entity coordinating everything. So with that in mind, what are the most common security pitfalls in designing and operating bridges in here? Why do they get hacked?
The second question is much more difficult, but the first question is bridges are blockchain is their own design. So and that's how Reactor and the Skyline was built. So it's not the one entity, it's not one code. We have the validators, the same is on the blockchain. They had to get to the consensus, what happened on the origin blockchain in order to mint on the other side. So it is decentralized as much as any other blockchain. Of course, not like Bitcoin or thousands of validators, but enough to be sure that there is not a single point of failure in technical. And the question of the second side, we have created one scientific paper. It's not yet published, but we can at least discuss about it, where we analyzed 35 biggest bridges. It is either very basic mistake like misusing the zero address or something like that, but in most cases it is some kind of social engineering. So keyword in some way or another compromised, and that help hackers do their dirty job.
Okay, I have a question related to that. So what different types of social engineering exploits have you seen over the years that people have tried to pull off?
It's standard, like phishing attacks, like hacking to your account, like fake post jobs, fake interviews. So it's all kind of social engineering. Even the basic one, like they get into your company, and then compromise part of the key or so. So basically, there are certain rules that should be used and very strict. And in most cases, they didn't use it. So hardware wallet, key rotation. There are quite a bit of a whole list of security behaviors that you have to do it in order to make your risk factor or risk surface of attack as low as possible. It's never like 100%, but now it's not that easy. Usually, technology today on blockchain is very, very good. So if you follow all the rules, it's very difficult for attackers to get through the technology. So they usually do it some other way.
Do I understand it correctly, just to follow up on Tom's question, that these hacks happen just because there are two different wallets and different chains controlled with a multi-sig, and that multi-sig becomes the subject of the attack? So if there's 3 out of 4 threshold that needs to be compromised in order to move the funds or create some sort of transactions that would be accepted by everybody else. So the tech could be rock solid, but if the multi-sig wallet is compromised and there's 5 people to compromise it in, then we have a problem.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, how do you solve that?
You cannot solve it. So in those hacks so basically they just bring up the number of wallet of address. So they were 5 out of 7. They go on to 9 out of 13. So this is one. So for me, one of the key things that we are implementing now is key rotation. So for one of the attacks, it took 3.5 years from first key they stole to the breached hack. So if they just had the key rotation and change, like in your enterprise, in any enterprise, it's basically normal to have change password mandatory every 30 days. If they had something like that in their system, it's much more difficult but I think that if they get on 7 or 9 keys, they will get to 15. So it's that means that 7 people or in their company didn't follow the basic rules. Don't open the emails from the Nigerian prince, so basically the very, very use a hardware wallet. So in order to have 7 keys stolen, it was really bad ecosystem.
Oh, that's amazing. No, this has been like in the back of my mind for the longest time. If the owners of the keys, I mean, I don't know if those are public or not, and how do they find these owners? If the owners of the keys are in one company, or the owners of the key are in one, location or one geography, then the attack becomes even more, easy to carry out. So in that regard, having team members in different parts of the world, and securing the keys with hardware wallets where you cannot just click a button and execute a transaction could be one of the ways to do it. But getting into the nitty gritties of this whole thing, I guess I wanted to ask if we adopt this framework of source chain, comms layer, and destination chain as a framework of analysis, where do you see most of the pitfalls happen in the past from a technical point of view? Now, we've covered the social engineering. I think there's not a whole lot we can do there. But the technical part still remains to be examined, I think, for our viewers.
Yeah, of course. So when we came into the block 2020, the technology was not mature. So coming up from mission critical system, it was very difficult for us to understand that somebody's putting on the money on the single wallet, or the code was very, very bad. And in the last 3 to 4 years, I think that technology is getting better. So it's not perfect, but technology now, the number of tests that everybody doing now, the security audits, even AI-enabled security audits, now make technology much, much better than, I would say, 5 years ago. I can say it's perfect, but for hackers, it's getting less and less possible to get it. But for example, the first hacks is like they didn't control the zero address. So the sender was sending them the zero address, and it was like nobody checked it, and he just took all the money. So that kind of stupid, idiotic, I would say, but it happens. But I think now these bridges that survived the last 10 years, technology is less and less have a holes that good hackers, so that the hackers can join it. So we have like framework that say that what should be done, but we have examined existing competitors, and all of them has covered this kind of technology failures.
Yeah, that's really exciting to see how the technology has evolved over the years, and it's becoming more and more robust and more fit for purpose. In terms of the bridge architecture, which inputs are maybe considered to be the most safe, either because they come from relayers, validators, or observers, these sort of different personas involved in the network, and what breaks if some of those actors become adversarial, let's say?
Yeah, we have consensus layers. So relayers are on the chains, that on destination chain and on the source chain. And since we have several, I can not say how many validators inside our bridge, that makes this whole ecosystem or whole architecture pretty much Byzantine fault tolerant. So it's very unlikely to get from technical point that consensus that is not reached. We never had that in the last few years, and it's very, very unlikely. And even then, there is mechanism to resolve this kind of situation.
So let's say that you in a case when you have the entire, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but entire sort of list of validators compromised, there is a way to catch a faulty or a fraudulent transaction on the other end. Okay. Well, that's very reassuring that this it's not like code is low kind of thing where if it's semantically correct, it just goes and transacts and it just goes through. Okay. Well, I had another question with regards to the security and and it's like, how can the bridge technology security track the state changes? Because you're talking about two different, blockchains. Is there a way to securely, safely monitor state changes on both chains and burned and deposit proofs? Can they be, spoofed or replayed?
We only are listening to the source chain. So of course, and then each validator has its own oracle how to generate, how to get events, and we are using different RPCs. It's rotating all the time, so it's randomly selected. So basically, the same amount of energy and that would need to steal the money from the source chain is to steal it for us. So we cannot be better protected than the source chain. But we are rotating the sources. It's not like they can give us wrong information, because we are randomly selecting, and in a number of nodes or validators are doing the same thing, and it's basically as secure as the source chain.
Okay, so a related question then. So when validators accept proofs, are they verified fully, like with the domain, the chain ID, root height, and things like that? Or is there like partial malformed proof data? Is that rejected deterministic?
Yeah. So for now, we are using, we are waiting for the full all nodes to be verified on the source chain. We are thinking about creating some kind of throttling that we don't wait for smaller amounts. But for now, since we want to be on the safe side, we are waiting for full confirmation of the source node. We don't play with it. So in order to be faster, like some Solana bridges, they are sending it much faster, but security is compromised. It could be compromised. Of course, they say it's never been done, but yeah, until it is fully verified on the source chain, there is always a chance that it can be a reorg or something like that. So for now on Skyline and on the reactor, we prefer security over speed, because I think that bridging is not something that you're doing all the time. So if you want to move funds, you can wait additional time, and same on the bridges. So it's not like you're going over the bridge 100 times a day. So
right.
So if you want to move your funds, it's better that safe than fast. We have that initiative about throttling, but still not sure that it is the right way. For now, it's security over speed.
Yeah, I think users appreciate that. That's a feature.
Yeah, it takes for Cardano, it takes 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But yeah, it's like that. So if you want faster, then you risk.
Yeah, Srdjan, maybe we should take this time to introduce the bridges that you are operating, the Skyline Bridge and the Reactor Bridge, and tell the audience, what they do and how they interoperate with the wider, crypto ecosystem.
So we are not operators. So we have one validators, but in order to be real bridges, it had to be decentralized, meaning that nobody really operates more than 20%. We operate much less. So we have created source code for it, and there are two bridges with a similar technology. One is Apex Reactor, and it is connecting 3 chains that are essential part of Apex. So there is a prime that is the similar technology as Cardano, and then there is a vector that is faster version of the Cardano. So again UTXO, and there is a nexus that is EVM based, and the reactor is only connecting these 3 chains and moving tokens around it. And the good thing about it is that all 3 chains have the same Apex token as a fee for their operations. And the similar technology, so the main problem is what's there to have a EVM to UTXO compatibility. So two chains are UTXO and one is EVM. And this is operated by validators from several different companies that guarantees the operations and everything. And the second bridge, it's Skyline. It's operated by the Skyline Foundation. And it is external bridge for Apex. And it connects Cardano mainnet to the Prime vector and the Nexus. And that is where the technology is similar, but it is external. And then with the help with the layer 0 guys, now the Nexus is connected to the Binance BNB bridge and to Base. So all of these chains are connected, and you can exchange or move funds or funds tokens around. So similar technology, and Skyline is operated by validators, and Skyline Foundation it is responsible for it in some ways, but it is not operating. So different companies have validators there, and the Skyline again, it is the reactor bridge is validators are for different companies, and it maintenance is by the Apex Foundation.
Well, that's awesome. And with regards to the wallets, and I saw, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself here with a question. There are two wallets, right? The wallet that issues the tokens in one chain, and the other wallet that basically takes the deposit in the source chain. Are these wallets controlled by the validators, or who holds the keys for these wallets, basically?
It's a multi. So basically, for that, it's multi-sig. So validators have to sign it. So every validator has its own key.
Okay.
And they have to sign every transaction.
Okay, so the validators basically have the control together over the sources of the funds, and
only validators with their private keys and their wallets controls and vote for each transaction.
Okay, and how were these validators selected when you created these bridges?
Yeah, for start, it is proof of authority. So we had the Apex Foundation had a contract with several companies, and basically gave them saturation of the node. So basically, they get the fees on the Prime, and for now it's proof of authority. We have rotating possibilities, so we can add new validators, we can remove validators, and that's based on voting. So yeah, we can add new as needed. We just had like a month ago, one validator wanted to out, and we just replace him with the different companies. It's
okay. And everything is, in the case of Skyline, is the coordination of validators is done by the foundation. Is that right? Or
yeah, in both things. Yeah, both Apex Foundation control the reactor, and Skyline is controlling the coordinating.
Okay.
So it's not like controlling, because all these companies are independent. They have signed the contract with the foundation, with the rules, 24/7 support, reaction time, uptime, and so on. And after, if they don't behave, they will be discarded or removed, and new companies can join. So it's always open call for anybody who want to join, but it's not like open. It's proof of authority. You have to go through the process.
Okay, that's excellent. All right. Now, basically, this series of questions that I was asking it has to do with the centralization of failure points. So the questions that I sometimes pop up in my mind is like, I have two choices as a user in crypto. One is to use bridges, and the other is just to use one centralized entity and use their tokens and whatnot. Deposit, let's say my BTC into a contract. They issue WBTC and send it to wherever I want them to send. In these two scenarios, what are the pros and cons for each?
Okay, so basically, their third option is tax. You go to tax and exchange there. So they are totally centralized. They are fast, cheap, but it's centralized. Basically, it's not your money. In any moment, the tax can go bankrupt or just tell you, no, it's not anymore your money. You're just you logged out of the system. And the only other option is basically bridge. If you give your BTC to any contract, you're on one chain, for example. So if you want to move this again around, you have to go to bridges. So yeah, taxes or distributed systems, as usual, taxes are slower. Taxes are, although they're centralized, they're very popular because they're fast and cheap. And but it has a risk. But if you want to really be the core of the blockchain is decentralization, and you want to be in the centralized, you have to go to taxes and bridges. It's slower, but that is really you control. You are in control of it.
Okay. No, that's perfect. Explanation here. If you want to. No central entity to have any authority over your coins, and you trust the decentralized systems that are operating the bridges. You might want to opt going through them because you control the coins, you control the timing. The only risk that you're taking is that the wallets that are managed by this bridge could be hacked or whatnot. But as you said. At this point, at this juncture, the technology is matured enough to basically allow the serious players to actually provide these services with minimal risk. Tom, do you have any other questions here? I mean, I don't want to hog all the time.
Yeah, no, they're great questions. Well, I understand, Srdjan. So you've had these bridges that you talked about on the call here deployed for a while, the reactor bridge, the Skyline Bridge, the bridge through layer 0. I know that we worked together with you to bridge the Apex token as the first use of the bridging technology that you built for the ecosystem. So we bridged the Apex token to Cardano. We bridged it to Base. What other tokens do the bridges support, and what tokens are you looking to have the bridges support in the future?
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, we have started these fungible tokens. So now we can move any kind of token from Cardano. We have a good partnership with Wi-Fi guys. They have a DEX there. We're hoping to get maybe to Midnight guys and to Snack. So we can move now any token from the Cosmos ecosystem. Apex had a decision the reactor will only ever use Apex. So this is like internal bridge, and it will always be just an Apex because it is a native token for that ecosystem. We also have EVM to EVM things, so we can move it to Base and to Polygon. We work with the Polygon, so maybe next will be Polygon. And we also creating the Solana connector. We were in Abu Dhabi like a month ago on the breakpoint, and this is very vibrant ecosystem. We would like to get their tokens on Skyline as well. So now it's more on the business side, maintaining security and onboarding new chains and new tokens.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so from what I understand, does that mean that either now or at some point in the future, Cardano native assets on Cardano can bridge from Cardano to other EVM chains by going through your bridges and through Apex?
Yeah. So we want to. So this is now a business development for us. We want to make it. We want to find the real gems because we don't want our bridge to be like hundreds or thousands of tokens. So we want to have people in order to have it clear, you want really tokens who know what they're doing and where they want to go. So as I said, Cardano, we already moved Apex to the BNB and to the base. We can do any other EVM, but as I said, it's better for us. We are not like, we don't want to have hundreds of chains and thousands of tokens. So we are focused, in that way we can give you really the best services and support. So like it's better to have like 20 tokens with high volume than thousands tokens. And the same, the guy from layer 0 is similar. It's not like they're charging a lot, but I don't think it's like charge because they want to have it good. If you don't have, it's not like just onboarding fee. It is like something that proves that you know what you're doing, and we don't want to have like fake, like pump down fund million tokens with zero value. So we pick and choose for now. But yeah, the technology-wise, we can do EVM, Cardano, and soon Solana, and BTC.
Amazing, amazing. You guys work fast too. We just like turned around and you had deployed this.
Yeah. The time is money, and things are moving. I know that the market currently it's not good, but things are moving fast. We had who is slow will not survive. That's our motto.
So Srdjan, you mentioned that you're gonna be selective with tokens, and I know that my viewers would be very interested to know what criteria you use in order to select the tokens. Is that volume only, or is there any other things?
We are now starting, so we want to have a good reference. We want to go into the mechanics as well. So if it is really something that has a potential, so we are coming from the real industry, and I would like to have tokens that have some value, not just like pumping up. So it's not volume. Even if you have a low volume, but the fundamentals are great, we are happy to jump on that ship.
Yes. No, I mean, I think this is such a great service for Cardano ecosystem because for some reason, or there's not a whole lot of liquidity in the Cardano ecosystem, and the tokens tend to be on a high quality side, the ones that I pay attention to. I mean, even the meme coin like SNEC, it's got some really good dynamics going on, and it looks like every ecosystem has a meme coin, and for Cardano, it tends to be SNEC. They have consistently, been showing progress in listings and things like that. They're listing on Kraken and whatnot. So it would be great for them to open up new markets, new liquidity, unlock those kind of, avenues because, other chains have them, and they might be looking for high quality projects on Cardano side to invest into. So, being able to move your SNEC or your, any other coin that you find attractive into another, sort of pool that is much deeper and offers more incentives and things like that could be a very valuable sort of thing for Cardano folks to explore. And it wouldn't be happening if we didn't have a bridge like yours and the Apex Fusion technology backing it. So I'm super glad that these kind of avenues exist at this point.
I think the utility is most important. So even the meme coin has utility. People like to chat about it, so you can send them the marketing or whatever. So as long as you have some utility, even if it's fun, you have some future. The problem is that if your token is dead, if you don't have anything, then it's problem. For example, in Solana you have Bonk. They have now Bonk Bank. They're creating the whole bank just by having a meme, because it is so recognizable thing that people want to have the credit card with that. So basically, if you have a utility and you want to go to another ecosystems or to have additional liquidity users, in some moment, like half a year ago, maybe a year, the Tone network was very interesting, like hundreds of thousands of millions of users. Now it's dead, but maybe from Solana or some other, you can bring users from liquidity from Bitcoin, or so but you have to have steps how you will get additional users, additional utility, how you will have marketing value or out of it.
Right. That's a really good point. It kind of goes along about what you said, by not just bringing on, thousands of tokens, but making careful and strategic choices about why you want to move to another ecosystem. So it's not just moving tokens there. It's about being selective in what type of partners you want to work with. If you move to another chain, what are the specifics about the chains that you're looking at migrating to, and having a coherent strategy, because just pushing your token out to as many chains as possible randomly, that's just going to fragment the value of the token anyway. It's not going to help you. So
it was like that, like 2 years or 1 year ago, there was like hundreds of projects that were just moving from chain to chain to get the grant. So you have a $30,000 grant, I'm coming to you. 3 months later, and so we like nomads moving around the chains, and it was doomed to oblivion, like from the start. So if you have a token, if you need something from my chain or from my bridge, let's talk. If it makes sense. If you just, I'm giving a grant in my tokens, it will go to zero in the next 2 years, but who cares? Well, let's just spend it. And it was the whole culture of projects moving around just to get the grants. And it's now, good thing it's coming to an end. This practice is not here anymore.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few of those projects. Unfortunately, it happened in crypto, and I had my all red flags go off on a couple of projects in Cardano, and I've recently found out that one of them just completely rug pulled, but they went from Cardano to Avalanche to raise funds and whatnot, and then they were not successful there, and then all of a sudden this whole thing was just like folded. But I mean, this is the type of risk you take when you come into an industry that's nascent. You have to be very discerning with your judgment. And meme coins were one of those things that I really did not like in the beginning. I've turned around in my perception of it. As you said, the beginning of a meme coin could be just for fun and awareness. It's basically, the way I think about it is, you capture attention, and that attention gets monetized, and then what you do next is important because you have that capital, and then you could probably, as a founder, rug pull and move away, or you could do something useful like creating a bank or creating drink or things like that. It's basically marketing. It's a marketing tool at this point, and I applaud the projects that actually do something with that, because it's part of the culture in that regard. And I cannot emphasize the value of liquidity in moving tokens from one chain to another enough, because in crypto, as you said, every island is on its own, and the way to tap into potential is being able to move your funds from one place to another and capturing that value. And as we talk about the Cardano ecosystem, tokens moving from Cardano to another ecosystem for liquidity, you could actually argue the same way for liquidity coming into Cardano to get some exposure to native tokens here, and maybe building something eventually. Now, the bridges, I think, with the Cardano UTXO, with the Apex Fusion UTXO model, could be a very interesting use case for Bitcoin to come. Just like the way we see Bitcoin being wrapped in the Ethereum ecosystem and getting some yield there. Do you think it's easier for Bitcoin or safer for Bitcoin to come to the chains like the Apex Fusion and Cardano and to basically get some yield? And is that safer? Is that preferable for people in Bitcoin side? What do you think?
In my opinion, so again, it's not financial advice, but technology-wise, it's similar or the same. But what will you do with liquidity when you come to Cardano? So you can bring $100,000 or $100 million in Bitcoin value, but you need to have people who will take a loan or do some on DeFi for that. So if you just bring a Bitcoin and nobody use it, it's nothing. So it's like a bank. You have to have a bank, have to have liquidity, but you have to have people who will take that money and build some business out of it, and then give you the part of their profit. So like just creating a new, I will pay you interest in my token that's worthless. So if you have utility, you can say, okay, I will take it 5%, even 10%. If I can find a business when I can go like 30% and give yield to you. So it's very important what to do with if it's a debt system, you can bring like whatever you can, gold or silver or Bitcoin to it. So for me, again, I'm coming from the real industry. Utility is a master, is a king. If you have utility, everything. So if you have people who want to take money, make a business out of it, or make a fun out of whatever, but having a utility. Without utility, and I think that now the whole industry is a little bit tired, like being punched around like for the last 1 year, a lot of time. But again, we have just one step back. You have utility. It can be a move. It can be a meme. It can be a prediction market, whatever. You have to give utility. Everything. If you don't have that, then we can create a Skyline token, then Skyline 2 token. Is it a reg pool? Is it not? Who cares if nobody uses it? So eventually, without utility, everything will go to zero. So this is very important for us, that to bring real utility, real people, and people who know what they're doing. And then liquidity without utility is, again, not enough. You have to have utility.
Totally agree with you, Srdjan, here. Now, for those people who are listening in right now and want to talk to you about tokenizing or bringing their token from Cardano to other ecosystem, is there a link you could share with me so I could share on the video so they could reach out to you?
Skyline Tech, we have a process now. It's quite much more easy because we already have the procedures. We have a legal, they have to sign some contract to give us right to use their icons and so on. And even with the Apex Fusion fund of guys and friends, we can even go very, very, I would say cheap, but affordable in these first tokens, next few tokens, because we want to show the utility. If we have the utility, then everything will bring. People will talk about it. They will use our bridge. They will use other chains. So for us now, it's all about utility and, of course, trust. We have to have a trust. So we want to know you. We want to understand your project. We want to see who is with you, who is invested, what is your, and then technology-wise, we can agree on anything. For new tokens, it takes just a few days for us now to onboard new token.
Perfect. Tom?
Oh, amazing. And how about for people who have questions and want to do a deep dive into the architecture? Is there something available online for people to invest?
We have documentation, we have presentation, so technology, everything is online and visible and audited multiple times. And we like to speak to chat about it if you really want deep dive.
That's right. And I remember you telling me about the team that did your bridge audit, Informal Systems, maybe.
Yeah. They are one of the biggest company in Cosmos ecosystem, and they created IBC technology bridge. So they did audit and also Route 6, and there are a lot of different. Now also, we used AI tool to called almanacs to go through our code. So it was checked from different pair of eyes, like quite a bit of auditing and deep understanding is invested in the reactor and the Skyline.
Right. Well, and I suppose, Umed, we can put a link also so everybody can check out the architecture as well if people have questions.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will put up the links for the bridges, the websites, and the way to get in touch with you if somebody wants to, be able to bridge their token or include their tokens in your bridge. It's an amazing thing that we have a bridge that is seamless that and actually connects the EVM to the Cardano UTXO world. Srdjan, it's an amazing opportunity to talk to you, and thanks for building what you're building, and I wish you the best of luck here.
Yeah.
I hope we will be able to talk to you again down the future, and when you have more tokens and new technologies to talk about the bridging technology. Otherwise, I would like to thank you for your time and the deep, fruitful conversations we've had. Tom?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Srdjan, and thanks, Umed, for having us on this first iteration of Slot Leader as you're bringing it back.
Yeah, it's always good to be the first. Yeah, you're always the first.
I bring high quality people on the first episodes, like I started the whole thing with Charles Hoskinson. Now we're restarting it with Srdjan Vukmirovic. So it's amazing. Thank you again so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Med and Tom, and speak to you soon.
Wow, that was a great interview with Srdjan. I hope you really liked his vision and the way he described the technology work. I still think that the bridges is still a nascent technology. There's different ways of moving value from one chain to another. One of them is being centralized exchanges, but it's a great thing that we have an alternative to centralized entities. What do you think, Tom? What do you think about the interview?
Oh yeah, the interview is great. Well, Srdjan's always great, and I love the way that he speaks to the technology, but also brings business strategy into his discussion. So yeah, as the CEO of Ethernal Tech, he's always looking for what's like the most impactful thing that he can bring to the ecosystem. He's certainly done that as a partner at Apex, and the role of Ethernal Tech, they just played a huge role, made huge contributions to our strategy in terms of becoming the digital asset superhighway between blockchains, right? Because the Skyline Bridge to Cardano, the reactor router that connects all three chains in the architecture with a single token, and then the work that they've done with us on the layer 0 side to bridge to Base, to bridge to Binance Smart Chain and 150 plus other chains. They're really what unlocks the capabilities of Apex Fusion, and Ethernal Tech are an amazing team. We only work with battle-tested technology and battle-tested teams. And as you said in the call, he's been in Web3, working on Polygon and other platforms, like going like long way back. And the way that they were able to connect UTXO and EVM technology with their bridging, they're a really, really, really strong team. So, but kind of what you said about bridges as an emerging technology, that I think we're in this really interesting transition as an industry where people are starting to talk about Web3 and the technology is actually being fit for purpose for addressing the world's needs and literally disintermediating the legacy institutions and processes. And we all know about those. I mean, that's becoming really common knowledge that pretty much everything that the world runs on today has a pile of skeletons in the closet. It doesn't matter what industry it is, whether it's people in banking working on spreadsheets, manual processes. We got to see it over the past year with Doge and the federal government, and talking about how the systems don't talk to each other. They even have, some systems in place, but things aren't being flagged. They're not being tracked properly. They don't trickle up. They don't get to decision makers in a way. And I even know somebody who works in the federal government right now, and they say that even after Doge, it's even more complicated and cumbersome now because they're requiring all these manual checks. So even to get a small budget approval of a few $100s, They have to send a series of emails that get approved by like 6 different people, and it takes like a week to get a simple approval. So these are all things that can be improved upon. But, you know, to your point, the entire industry still has a lot to figure out and a long way to go. So what do you think are going to be some of the future trends that we're looking to see as blockchain technology and bridges in particular continue to evolve? Because they certainly will.
Well, no, I mean, this is a great. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Tom. And I always value your input because you're like in the midst of it with Apex Fusion. Well, my thoughts, I mean, they revolve around disintermediation of the legacy structures as agents of economic change. And you know, I've been around long enough to understand that some of the things that blockchain does, simple moving of value. I just basically take simple moving of value. It's just orders of magnitudes faster, even with Bitcoin, than you would have in financial institutions, especially for the types of amounts that we're talking about, billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. In a typical bank, there would be lots of checks and balances and people running around with pens and papers and things like that. You know, some might argue that this is a built-in security and whatnot. I would say the security stems from your ability to, you know, not be able to steal the money. And everything else, you know, I think we're all adults in terms of like moving funds and knowing where to move them or how to move them and things like that. When I say this technology is nascent, I just wanted to clear out here the issue. I'm not saying that, you know, it's buggy. I think we're past the point, as Srdjan said, where, you know, the bridges got hacked because they had X, Y, and Z. And we have a long sort of bucket list of things that bridge companies that bridges check before they can actually you know, deploy these bridges. And all these, you know, years of hacking actually summed up to something, because the serious firms like Ethernal, they do have a serious methodology to check if, you know, all these attack vectors or risk factors have been addressed. Now, I think the way the world is moving still is that we are going to get into more and more decentralized sort of systems. You know, the economic activity is going to move into these decentralized systems. This is happening now. It's probably accelerating as we speak. And my thinking is that the decentralized systems, they kind of expose the inefficiency of a corporate structure and how it is costlier, slower, and probably in some cases impedes innovation. You know, you've seen a lot of big organizations, you know, you will see that they stop innovating because they start thinking about probably their bottom line first and become risk averse. And those kind of things, I would think, do not, at least they haven't had, the blockchain industry hasn't had enough history to basically corner itself into a state where, you know, the innovation doesn't take place. If there's anything, I think, blockchain actually suffers from excess of innovation because it's so easy to iterate with this technology. You can deploy a smart contract with a click of a button and start getting traction if your idea actually makes, you know, works. And you don't really need an office. You don't need you know, any jurisdiction to incorporate in. I mean, those things exist now at the way it is. But I think going in the future, all of this is going to be redundant or not necessary. So yeah, I mean, that's basically my opinion about this stuff.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that you said there, right? So first of all, you know, in terms of real world use cases, right, there's just a couple of really really solid, tried and tested use cases that are really, that blockchain has locked in, right? One is, of course, Bitcoin as a store of value, right? No one can deny that. And the other one is for things like cross-border payments, right? And I lived this personally as we were building out the project, because we had started the company, our tech labs, when Choke Point 2.0 was in full swing, right? And we have a global distributed team in countries all around the world, including our partners and vendors. And we had challenges setting up our banking relationships. So we have entities in multiple jurisdictions. We have a labs in Abu Dhabi. We have our foundation is in Switzerland, and we have an entity in the US. And each of these jurisdictions needed to have, all the legal and regulatory elements covered. So we had to have strong legal representation for each jurisdiction. We also needed to have banking relationships, right? And so when trying to pay the team out of the labs in Abu Dhabi, team members who are in Eastern Europe, who are amazingly talented, incredibly conscientious innovators, we were trying to send payments to our team members in several different Eastern European countries, and we had their contracts, we had their invoices, we had everything to prove that the payments were legitimate, and we submitted all those to the bank, and we went to make the payments in fiat, and the payment would go out, and then we would hear back from the team or the partner that they weren't receiving the funds. And days would pass, and we would wait, and then we would follow up with the bank, and the bank wouldn't know, and the bank would say, well, let's go and talk to the intermediary banks and we'll get back to you. And then more days pass, banks are talking to banks, we're waiting to hear back. Finally, our bank comes back and says, yeah, the payment got blocked at the intermediary bank, and they said, send the contract. It's like, well, we sent the contract. So we would get in these kind of protracted situations. Meanwhile, people are waiting to get paid and weeks are going by. And then what happens at the end? The funds go back to the bank. They don't even make it through. We don't get the situation resolved. So each month we were going through this process where, we were trying to pay the team from the bank, and it was so painful that we ended up going to an all USDC payments process, right? And everybody agreed to just get their payment in stables. And then guess what happened? Payment within minutes every time. There were some tax implications for people in certain jurisdictions that have like really stringent rules on crypto. But those aside, it solved the problem. And so we got to live that experience of a legacy system being inefficient, hindering business, creating friction. And as somebody in the US or somebody in the Western world, we take for granted that things work reasonably well for us, right? Maybe it's going to take a few days for a bank deposit to land or something like that, or over the weekend.
Honestly, I would think even 3 days is too much. Or 3 days is too much. And I didn't want to interrupt you, Tom, but to totally get your position, and this problem is exacerbated overseas, where the legacy structures don't work, or they don't even have them. Or if the legacy structures from the West look at the intermediary bank or the correspondent bank in an emerging market, they usually look at them with a suspicion, and that creates a lot of friction in and of itself. Now, I'm not a proponent of the idea of not having any sort of regulations over the payments, because bad actors do tend to use these rails, but I think all of this could be automated in a way that the vast majority of payments that are not tied to anything, and you'd be quite foolish to use blockchain for those kind of things because you're traceable 100%. You're implicating yourself. The vast majority of payments, the vast majority of movement of value in crypto is not for nefarious purposes, and it should not be stifled. I think it stifles the growth of global economy. And it's just counterproductive, because we're trying to say, hey, here's a Ferrari. It runs really fast. It needs roads, meaning internet, right? But it really runs fast. And then you're coming back to me and saying, nope, we're gonna enforce horse rules and horse cart rules on the Ferrari. It just doesn't make sense. You have to get off your, basically old mentality. And I'm talking to you, all the traditional finance people, to basically embrace this thing, because not only is it fast, but it's also so cost efficient, from a compliance point of view and things like that. There are ways you could rank your wallets, your payments, your transactions by risk, and your compliance department is not going to be like 10 people who are just reviewing transactions. It's going to be automated in the back of your server somewhere, sitting in a cloud, and settlement the same way. If you are settling on chain, you don't need a middle office trying to push the papers. DTCC realized that, albeit I think it's a little late. But anyway, no, what I'm trying to say is that, New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, everybody, if they run on their own chains or they decide to pick a chain, then DTCC is redundant completely.
Right.
And there are ways to obfuscate transactions so that none of the competitors see those. The privacy could be built in and all that kind of stuff. But anyway.
Yeah, totally. And it just makes sense, right? For money to move at the speed of business, right?
Yeah.
And not create unnecessary friction for something as simple as making a payment. So you made that statement there about it hurting business worldwide. And it just, if you just look at our case, if we spent 10% of our time in a given week chasing payments, right, and all the discussions with the team about it and chasing up the bank and trying to get that
economic
fixed.
Loss. You can calculate it, actually.
Yes,
Economists
and
do that.
it scales beyond one business to global business. And then you also mentioned the staffing, right? So during Choke Point 2.0, there was just hiring of all these junior compliance personnel, and they were just seeding compliance personnel everywhere, coming in, and they have a checklist of things that they're looking through. And if things don't check the box in just the right way, they just reject the transaction, right? So you get all these people, it's all manual. A lot of people that were coming in at that time were not seasoned compliance officers because there was a big hiring thrust to meet the demands. And, if you partner AI and blockchain technology together, you can remove a lot of that inefficiency and a lot of that additional cost.
I would say it's absolutely coming, because there's money to be made in that. If you're running a corporation, and I'm coming to tell you that, McKinsey does that, right? They do like a, management consultants. They just come in, look at your, income statement, and just finds these big sources of expenses that are not tied directly to the revenue, and then say, okay, well, can we do something? And this is like such a low-hanging fruit. If you codify all the transactions into, fraudulent or tied to something, and it's easy to do that with blockchain, because if your wallet is talked or sent some money to a wallet that is tied to something nefarious that you don't want to, and if there's gradations of how far removed it is, but those kind of things can get flagged, and immediately you will know if the person is fraudulent or not, or is doing something bad. And to your point of compliance, usually when you get a refusal, they just say, oh, your payment didn't go through, or don't attempt it, or something like that. Or, if you're opening an account, it happened to me recently, just because I mentioned blockchain because of a project of the startup that I'm working in, they just flat out refused opening the account. And they said, you cannot reapply. This is it. This is a final thing. You cannot open an account with us. Boom.
Wow.
Done. And, that's fine. I can take my business elsewhere, but it's just goes to show how much of economic inefficiencies or economic costs that creates to businesses who want to run legitimate businesses and create value for their customers and the economy, by extension to their governments. So take note of that. But all of these challenges aside, I think people are moved by the promise of no centralized entity managing any part of economic activity, and that might be the aspirational goal. There will be certain, centralized entities managing certain parts of economic movements of value, but I think as the time goes by, a lot of things could be automated, and that's what keeps me in this industry.
Yeah. Well, you're in this industry because you're smart, Umid. So, here's something that I see more and more that I knew was going on, but it's happening like all the time now in the different businesses that I'm involved with. Is in every single industry, you're seeing people who take the time to investigate the tech and get really passionate about the ways that the technology can actually solve really entrenched problems that they've seen in their particular industry that aren't being addressed and that are frankly being ignored. And this is really the secret sauce, I think, right now. Is it really takes some deep knowledge of your domain to see where those sticking points are, where blockchain could come in and actually solve a problem. But literally every industry has these small pockets of people who are taking the time to investigate. And then the main thing that they need is they need to find somebody that can help them make their vision a reality. So that's where we're really well positioned in the industry now, and everything that that builders have been through, on this journey, have made people really, really smart, really, really battle tested. And the Cardano community in particular, I got to give a nod to the Cardano community. I describe the Cardano community as the best kept secret in Web3, because it's often not considered when looking at contributions to the wider industry. But the depth of the talent and the commitment and the strength of the technology is so incredibly solid. It's one of the strongest, if not the strongest, communities in Web3. So we have these talented, these pockets of really talented people who can solve these problems. And then in each industry, you have people that are waking up to the ways in which the technology can solve some entrenched problem. And there are things that are so simple to solve with blockchain. And I'll give you an example of a company that I'm speaking with these days in the construction industry. So in the construction industry, and this is just one of hundreds of different use cases that blockchain can solve, there is typically a mechanism whereby when somebody does a massive building project, they will use a platform to do a call for bids. And everybody who will come to build whatever it is, the skyscraper or whatever, will go on the bids platform, and they'll submit their proposal for laying the carpet or doing the painting or building the structure, everything that's involved. And the bids are all managed through these legacy platforms. Then the people go and they do the work, and the contractors finish the work, and then the work is done and it's time to get paid. But they don't have an easy mechanism to get paid. They're still waiting on old mechanisms to get paid. And so you've got whoever started the project, let's say it's a city, it's like a municipal government, or it's a big financial institution. They're sitting on millions of dollars that need to get paid out to the contractors, but they're incentivized to delay payment because they're still earning money off the float. So what I've learned is in construction, the time between the work getting completed and the payment going out has continued to slide and continued to increase. It used to be a few weeks, and now it's getting up to 30, 60 days in some cases, because there's no incentive and there's no mechanism to pay. So a simple application of a smart contract with escrow that releases payment upon verification that the work gets done, that's something that blockchain is very, very good at. And integrating that with an existing construction platform solves that problem. That's just one example. And it just takes somebody within that industry who understands what can be done and understands the problem enough and cares enough to go out and try and solve that problem. And I guarantee there are examples like that all over the place, right? So we get away from the hype and the nonsense like meme coins and all that stuff that has given crypto, kind of a black eye, and we start moving it into the future where it's actually changing things for the better. I think that's the inflection point that we're reaching.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I, to the defense of meme coin, I would say I've been a long time critic of them, to be honest with you. I remember CryptoKitties and how they wrecked the the Ethereum network back in the day, and I was like, why? Why do I have to content with these CryptoKitties transactions and whatnot? And I came to a realization that a technology as fundamental as blockchain, you will see different kinds of use cases. You could argue the same thing about internet. It propagated the use of adult industry or not. So it's just basically a fundamental technology that could be used in different ways. And yes, you will happen to have those kind of other ways of using it, but it doesn't mean that it has to be defined by that. Internet today, right now, you and I are talking on internet. Basically, there's many myriads of ways this simple technology, simple. It's not really simple if you look at the TCP/IP stack, but no, this technology can be used in different ways, but it's our duty and as citizens and not duty, I would say, anybody who sees the potential can harness the potential of this technology to apply to their own industries. And it's coming. There's people who always resist the change, and that's okay. But there are people who see the opportunity and then seize it, and maybe they will capture the value in the form of smart contract, or maybe they capture the value in the form of an entity that manages that smart contract. The case in point, wrapped Bitcoin is basically a smart contract that's managed by one entity. It issues it. The same thing with the USDC or USDT. Things like that could happen, and I dare say they're going to happen. In every industry, there will be a company that will transition everything into the blockchain, and I'm so excited to see the future unfold like this.
I'm glad that you're excited, because a lot of people in Web3 aren't very excited these days. But there is a lot to be excited about when you're taking the long view. And anybody that's struggled, right? You still have your skills, you still have your network, you still have your knowledge, right? And things will come back around. We're just going through a time of tremendous change. And you kind of brought the conversation back to coherence a little bit there with some of the things that you said, because, so for example, like an identity solution, right? It can be used to create a nightmarish dystopia if implemented in the wrong way. But there are actual important use cases that it can enable. And even meme coins, for example, if done in the right way, if done in a coherent way, to me, a successful meme coin is really about marshaling a community, right?
Yep.
It's about doing something exciting and getting people to come together around just meeting and around a concept or an idea. And if that's what you're really doing, if you're not just spamming meme coins to try and rug people, but you're actually caring about your community, that's an incredibly powerful use case. And of course, the one that I think about that's done it right is SNEC, right?
Yeah,
and
Cardano's, yeah, I think Cardano.
right. So the tremendously successful project. And I didn't know this about them initially, but I had somebody on the team who's followed SNEC for a long time, and they were telling me about the SNEC Discord. And when they joined, the rules for the Discord channel were, as you join Discord, it says the only thing that you can say in the general channel is you can only make hissing noises. So you log in and it's just hiss, hiss, hiss. And the guy said he cracked up so much, right? So giving somebody that type of experience, that type of like novelty, right, and levity in your day, that is a real value, right? To come up with something as creative as that, and that's going to create a community that sticks around, and that's tremendous. There's a lot of projects that really struggle to create that center of gravity for the community, and I'm happy to say that Cardano is one that's really done it right. When people come to Cardano, they come to stay, and they build relationships, and they believe in the technology, they believe in the community, no matter what's going on, because we establish friendships, right? And we're in it for the long game.
Yeah, the strength and the quality of people in Cardano, I dare say, is probably the best in the entire crypto industry, and super happy to be part of it. And although the podcast is going to focus on other chains, we're not going to be siloed, but I always call Cardano and in this case Apex Fusion my home, as like as the starting point for my journey in this industry. But before we close, just wanted to give a shout out to all of you who've been following me and the show, and I would like to thank you for your support and for the calls to restart it. I do have the time and the opportunity to do it. I wasn't that free in the corporate world. I'm glad to say that it's over now, so I can continue this show, and I hope to produce a lot of great shows and content for you with Tom, especially. Super excited to have him on board, and I'm looking forward to a lot of good years up ahead, and exploring the technology and beyond. Tom.
Amen. Yeah. Thanks so much, Umed. Really, really enjoyed doing this show with you, and looking forward to the next one.
Great. Well, this was the end of this show, this episode. Apologies if it ran a little bit too long. I think we had a pent up sort of, things to say. But in the future, I think we'll keep it a little bit shorter. But super excited to be back, and looking forward to exploring all sorts of opportunities and topics with you. If you do want me to cover specific things or projects, please do let me know in the comment section below. Do let us know, I guess I have to say. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
See ya.